Moving forward with the Conservatives following yesterday's messaging shift?
Well, they're showing that they do have a depth of polling and focus group information to shape change because, of course, the two pillars of their election campaign were going to be, don't we hate Justin Trudeau, and let's get rid of the carbon tax. None of the Liberal candidates are talking about the carbon tax anymore. As you just mentioned, they've come up with other ways of saying that they want to put a price on carbon, but it's not the carbon tax that is facing consumers. And of course, Mr. Trudeau's already announced he's stepping down, so that's really changed things for them. But you have to admire on a pure political level the ability of the Conservatives to change rapidly. It's hit and miss so far. I think that Poilievre did very well yesterday. Shifting over to patriotism as a key theme, that's a winner. Look at the size of that flag. And I think that, he wears it well. It seems to be heartfelt, and it's the type of thing that Stephen Harper was talking about in a recent book and in a very strong op-ed that Stephen Harper circulated, so people can associate with that. I think that he's going to be able to ride that one a fair bit. But it really depends on what Canadians mean when they say they want change. Does Mr. Poilievre represent real change with regard to the situation that we're living right now in Canada? We've got an American president saying and doing things that no one would have believed possible just a few weeks ago. Is Mr. Poilievre seen as the person who can take that on, or is he seen as somebody who, a little bit like Mr. Trump, likes calling people names, likes deprecating them, likes going after them and knocking things down? He doesn't seem to be, anyway, to those who know them, and I did. I spent 10 years across the aisle from him in the House of Commons. He's not the type of guy to build things up. So right now, Carney is seen as the person who can do that, who can both take on the Americans and come up with something positive for Canada. I think that Poilievre is trying to do that. I'm not sure it's going to work, though.
And, of course, all eyes are on Donald Trump right now amid the tariff threat. What approach should Ottawa be taking right now with the Americans?
I'm going to say that I admire the way we've been doing things so far. A lot of people said, why did Trudeau go to Mar-a-Lago? Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago because Donald Trump had just been re-elected president and he got a chance to have some face time. Yes, the 51st state thing came up, and I understand Premier Fury's having been told in the White House by not very senior people to take the 51st state threat seriously. It's not that it's not to be taken seriously, because it is being said by the President of the United States. But is it in any way realistic? I think the answer to that is no. It's all part of the game of being Donald Trump. So we saw the 13 premiers, the 10 provinces and the 3 territories head to Washington together. That in and of itself, Renee, that's fantastic. We found out that Francois Legault and Danielle Smith were discussing pipelines, something that Legault had said absolutely no to crossing Quebec because of the strong environmental policies that were in place to reduce greenhouse gases. He said it was not socially acceptable. All of a sudden he realizes we can't be an island, and that he wants to be able to talk to the rest of Canada. We all have to work together. Talking seriously about getting rid of the remaining barriers to interprovincial trade that could boost our economy by up to 4%. These are the types of things that are the positive outcomes. It's the silver lining of the madness that we've been going through with Trump. Now, the good news is Trump seems to have found other targets, not just Canada, because we were there in the middle of his screen for the first few weeks. But it doesn't mean that it's going to go away. We've got to take the tariff talks seriously, and we've got to prepare. But I think that by keeping our powder dry, Mr. Trudeau was being pushed, well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And the answer is simply, we're not going to react to something that isn't there yet. It's shadow boxing at this stage. We know the Americans are planning something. We're getting ready to react to it in every way possible to make sure that they understand that it's just a tax on their consumers. It's not going to hurt us as much as it's going to hurt them. I think that message is starting to hit home.
And we also heard from the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador about the Premier's meeting in Washington this week, saying that even, Trump's officials are saying that he's serious about Canada becoming the 51st state. Is this a foregone conclusion now at this point?
Well, I believe that Premier Fury is speaking the truth when he says that that's what was told to him by the people they met at the White House. I'm not sure that I would use the word senior officials to describe either of those two people. They're not. They're not that high up the pecking order. But I think that they're relaying what they believe to be true. That everything, even as implausible as it might sound, that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth has to be given some level of credence. But In the real world, of course, Donald Trump doesn't live in the real world, but in the real world, taking over your neighbor, that's what Russia did illegally in Ukraine. Is that what Donald Trump is planning to do? He's quick to say that he's not planning a military invasion, but he wants to attack us economically. Is that what long-standing allies and friends and trading partners do to each other? So it's pure Trump. It's going to settle down. There will be another set of documents coming in on April 1st. Between now and then, there'll be a lot of seesawing back and forth about what he plans to do or not do. But I think that Canada's ready to handle it. It will be an economic hit for us, but we'll get over it. We've been through worse over the years, and Donald Trump will only be there for 4 years minus a few weeks.
All right, we will have to leave it there, Tom.